Hey everyone, and welcome to Story Time. I am glad to be here with you today. I earlier in the week read a book called Elephant Dance because it's about India, and this is the week that we're doing 1, 2, 3 Akita, which is a really fun program we usually get to do in person. But this year, because of COVID-19, we had to do it virtually, so we're doing it on Zoom. But we're still doing lots of things. We're making crafts, and we're doing music with Mrs. Besky, and we're doing yoga with a woman who is the chair of our governing board, Jody Patton. And so we're doing all kinds of fun things still. It's just that we're not together doing it. But one of the things sometimes we do with 1, 2, 3 Akita is we also read books, and we share all kinds, and we send, and we do things like cooking and games and things like that. And people are getting to do those things. We're sending videos home. So people can cook and dance and play games and do all that stuff. But we also sometimes do books. So this book I'm going to read to you today is about India. It's called Finders Keepers. It's by Robert Arnett, illustrated by Smita Taraka. And it's an interesting book about a journey to India. And India is a beautiful country, and culturally it feels very different from the United States. The way people dress is different. They only have 3 seasons instead of 4. Their food is different, and the landscape, they have interesting landscape. I mean, probably like some parts of our country, but there just is a lot of different stuff. There's a lot of different things that happen in India. Their religions are different. With all of that said, like all of us, like all of our books that we have been reading and talking about, we're all beloved children of God, and there are many paths to God. And so there are lots of religions in India. The main one is probably Hinduism, and that is just the path of those people to God. So let's go ahead and read our book called Finders Keepers. And I will show you this. This is the cover page. And right here, this is a lamp called a Daya, and it is to celebrate the it's like a celebration of lightness over dark, called Diwali. And this book is dedicated to the silent voice within each of us that prompts us to do what is right. And I will tell you that I have a kitten who's new, who's been with me for a couple of weeks, and he kind of does bad things. So he also is playing with the book, and he's sitting on my lap, and here he is. So if he walks in front of the camera, I'm sorry. Cats are hard to control. Dogs are a lot different. So anyway, so let's read this book. A warm welcome. In India, a toran is hung over a doorway to welcome God and guests. Torans are made of fresh flowers and leaves, can be seen all across the country. In the state of Rajasthan, in northwest India, where the story took place, torans were made of fabric and then decorated with brightly embroidered appliques and mirrors. The cloth pennants that hang down from torans represent leaves from sacred trees. This toran welcomes you to Finders Keepers. As you step through its portal, may you be blessed to always seek truth. The bus ride. It is hard to look out a window and see the sights of India when every time your bus goes over a bump, you bounce so high off your seat you almost hit your head on the roof. But there I was, bouncing along on my way to Mount Abu, a small town on the mountain in the state of Rajasthan. Some adventurous men and boys who could not get seats inside the bus rode on the top with the luggage. Though I would have enjoyed the cool breeze and a panoramic view from the top, I preferred to stay where I was. Look at that bus. See the people on top? And here's a picture of the state of Rajasthan. And down here, there's a whole map of India, and it shows where Rajasthan is in India. The bus was packed with people and their belongings. Most of the women were dressed in brightly colored saris, which is it's like a long piece of fabric that women wrap to make almost like a dress. Many of the men were wearing traditional clothes and had colorful turbans on their head. They had full mustaches that curled at each end. The rainbow colors of their clothing gave the inside of the bus a festive look. Though most passengers were strangers to each other, we quickly became like a big family traveling together. Some people shared food and others passed young children and babies around, perhaps to give the mothers a rest. The children were happy and contented to be entertained by total strangers, even me. I knew I was far from my home in the United States when I watched a man take off his turban. To my surprise, I saw that on top of his head was his lunch. It was several flat pieces of bread called chapatis and a few carrots. I had never seen anyone use a turban and his head as a lunchbox. I wonder if you've ever seen that. I've never seen that. Look at that bus. Do you see all the beautiful colors? We stopped for lunch at a roadside rest stop. As I got off the bus, I saw several people pointing up at a tree. I was amazed to see large bats hanging upside down from the tree limbs, roosting during the day. The harmless fruit bats, called flying foxes, looked like special effects from a vampire movie. At a nearby food stall, a man was boiling milk mixed with sugar in a large cauldron over an open fire. I bought a glass of hot milk that he topped with some cream skimmed from the surface of the steaming liquid. To cool it for me, a boy skillfully poured it from one glass to another. The delicious drink tasted like a milkshake. The savory snacks that were piled high looked appealing, and I bought some to munch on for the rest of the trip. Do you see the bats? I wonder if you've ever seen those bats. At the Columbus Zoo, we have flying foxes. In one of the exhibits, actually in the Asia exhibit. I meet a monk. Our rickety old bus chugged up the rugged mountain and finally we arrived at Mount Abu. I was staying in a Hindu monastery that is called an ashram. An old monk greeted me at the door. He was a tall man with a long gray beard and gray hair. He wore a wool sweater and a cotton wrap-around skirt called a lungi, and a pair of sandals. I wonder how he stayed warm on such a cold winter's day. What attracted me most was the friendly sparkle in his eyes. After dinner, we sat around a small fire. The monk told me that he had spent many years as a hermit, living in a forest and praying to God. "The Lord is my provider. I don't need to own anything to be happy," he said to me. As I lay in bed before I fell asleep, I thought about something else the monk had said. All men are my brothers, and every woman is my mother. I wonder if you know what a hermit is. I wonder if you've ever heard that term before. It's someone who lives alone, basically. I love this page. You see how beautiful it is? How beautiful to look upon everyone you meet as part of your family and being as dear to you as a brother, a sister, or a parent. That's like what we were just talking about how we are all beloved children of God, and we're all connected. Tour of Mount Abu. The next morning, I took a bus tour to visit some of the temples in Mount Abu. On the way, I saw some nuns and monks of the Jain religion walking down the road. In one hand, they were carrying their food containers in a white cotton cloth. With their other hand, they were sweeping the ground ahead of them so that they would not hurt any insects or even seeds by accidentally stepping on them. Their mouths were covered in a small cloth to avoid swallowing even the tiniest insects floating in the air. Because Jains believe that everything has a soul, they respect and protect all forms of life. The highlight of my bus tour was seeing the famous Jain Dilwara temples that are said to have the finest marble carvings in the world. The delicate designs on the inside of the huge marble domes made the ceiling look like it was covered with snowflakes. We also went to a Hindu temple that had a statue of Shiva. Shiva is a part of the Hindu Trinity and represents God's activity within the created universe. To Hindus, he also represents God's powers God's power that takes all things back to their origin when their stay in the world is completed. Though Hinduism believes in only one God, it gives names and forms to God's many aspects that help us to better understand God's mysterious power and intelligence. Thinking about what the statue of Shiva symbolizes, I realized that Hinduism, like Christianity, believes in a trinity. So in Christianity, our trinity is Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. So in Hinduism, I am not sure. I'll have to look into this. So part of it is Shiva. I think there might be more at the end. We'll look at that then. Finders keepers, question mark? The last stop on the tour was at a Hindu temple built on the highest peak in Rajasthan. While going up the path that led to the temple, I stopped to buy some postcards. As I walked away, I felt someone tapping my elbow. A small, dark-haired boy was standing behind me. To my surprise, in his outstretched hand was my wallet. I must have dropped it when I bought the postcard. I wonder what you would do if you found a wallet that you knew belonged to somebody that maybe you had just seen pass you by. I offered the boy a reward for returning my wallet, but he would not accept it. I even tried to put some money into his hands, but he put them behind his back. Again, I made an attempt to reward him for his honesty, but he refused. I could not understand why the boy would not take the money. I went up to a man who could speak English to see if he could help me. This boy found my wallet and returned it to me. Please explain to him that I want to reward him for his honesty. The man began talking to the boy in their language. After a few minutes, the boy did most of the talking. I was beginning to wonder if either of them understood me. Then the man turned to me and said, "This boy does not understand why you should give him any money for returning to you what is yours. The idea of accepting a reward for doing a good deed makes no sense to him." Finders keepers? No way. Have you ever heard that, I wonder? Finders keepers, losers weepers? That's not a very nice thing. So, like, if you find something that belongs to somebody, it doesn't mean somebody else. It doesn't mean you should keep it, right? So this is a situation where finders keepers is the question. Does that really work? Which way? That night in the ashram, I thought of the little boy's honesty again. I wondered it would have taken him many years to earn the amount of money in the wallet, yet he was not tempted to keep it. He decided he listened to his conscience. The dictionary defines conscience as the recognition within us of right and wrong regarding what we do and why we do it. It urges us toward right action. Some people believe that our conscience or inner voice is the silent voice of God, trying to guide us, and that if we listen to it, we will always do the right thing. To do what is right in any situation is one of the most important principles of Indian culture, and is one way to explain their concept of dharma. It means to do what you thought to do with not what you want to do. Do what you ought to do, not what you want to do. I'm going to say that again. Do what you ought to do, not what you want to do. Think of the little boy who found my wallet. He never considered keeping the wallet for himself. He knew that it belonged to someone else. He returned it because it was the right thing to do, and not because he hoped to get a reward. To him, his reward was in knowing that he had done what was right, and that's the best reward of all. These are signs. Anyway, this way, that way, Dharma way. So that principle, do what you ought to do, not what you want to do. Sometimes that's hard. Your journey begins. I hope you enjoyed traveling with me to India. I enjoyed traveling with you. Now it is time for me to say namaste. Namaste is how many Indians greet each other instead of saying hello and goodbye. While uttering namaste, they place the fingers and palms of both hands together in front of their chest and slightly bow the head. It is also called pranam, and it is a gesture of humility and respect. The respect that people show to each other when they pranam is one of the things I love most about India. In Sanskrit language, To pranam is to say namaste, or to say namaste means that God in me bows to the God in you. My soul bows to your soul. It expresses the belief that God is present deep within each of us, that the skin color, the race, or the religion does not alter the divine soul image of God within each person. Once we believe and understand this, we will never do anything to anyone that we would not do to God. So, dear ones, let your journey begin. And over here it says, life is a journey. Let your inner voice be your guide. Treat all who cross your path with love and kindness, gallantly searching for the stars. And that's the end of that book. I think that's a really beautiful book, and it's a true story of this man's journey to India. And that idea that no matter what your religion is, or where you live, or what color your skin is, that we're all connected and we're all part of God's world. Here's some questions that are in the book. Would you do something just to please someone else when your inner voice says it is wrong? I wonder if you've been in that situation where someone else wanted you to do something and you knew it wasn't the right thing. And I wonder how you handled that. So here's more. When we do the right thing, we feel so good about ourselves that we do not need to seek the approval of our friends. Here's another question. Do you think you should be paid to help around the house for doing things like keeping your room clean or washing the dishes? Is it not your responsibility as a part of the family to help with chores? I wonder what you think about that. And I wonder if helping to take care of things around the house is part of your job. As people who all live together in a family, I wonder what it would be like if we all take some responsibility to help out, if it would be more peaceful. So that is the end of the book. And I wonder what you think about that book. And I wonder if you learned anything about India from that book. And I wonder if you would ever be interested in traveling to India, or if you have ever met anyone who's Indian. We actually have a lot of people in Columbus who are from India, so that might be something that you have been exposed to. And there are places where you can eat Indian food and things like that. So that might be an interesting thing to do with your family. But in there, it talked about saying goodbye with namaste. So you can try this. You can put your hands together and you bow, and you say namaste, and that is saying the spirit in me sees the spirit in you. So I see God in you, and I hope you see God in me as well. And I say blessings to you, and I hope I'll get to see you soon.